I don't know how to separate those two, and I haven't found anyone really help us with that, so I'd really like some direction of that.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a really critical step. That was the other thing I was going to tell you is we've got to find separation between those, and you've got to be able to put yourself on a consistent salary, or compensation that covers your budget, and allow the business to run separately. By dividing those, it's going to help with taxes, so you can have true deductions for business expenses where you run into problems when you're mixing personal finances, because if you were challenged on that from the IRS, you're going to have a difficulty justifying those. And so that's why keeping it separate is key. You also can't ever tell truly how the business is doing, but when it stands on its own and you create the business business plan and budget and so forth, and then you pay yourself more of a consistent amount, where when you have a big month, you retain it in the business. When you have a low month, you pull from some of those reserves and you try to normalize that compensation coming over. Then that allows you to build the personal spending plan on something, that's a little more consistent, so you don't have these wild fluctuations, which make it nearly impossible to budget against. So there's a lot of good reason for you to kind of separate these out, keep a separate set of books for the business and the personal finances. You really need to find a small business CPA, somebody who specializes in that. I'd head to our website, faithfi.com, and click Find a Professional. And what you're going to want to do is ask for a referral to a CPA who specializes in small businesses, and let them know what you're looking for. And you should find one that can make that connection for you to a godly accountant or CPA who can really help you. Because I think that's the next step, and then you can create the budget, and then you and your wife can come together on how much are we saving, how much are we paying off debt, and probably it's a combination of the two. God bless you, Dwayne. We appreciate your call. That's going to do it for us today, folks. Thanks to my team, Devin Patrick, Pat Montague, and Jim Henry. Couldn't do it without him. Thank you for being here as well. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and come back and join us tomorrow. Lord willing, I'll be here. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
State employee, you have the opportunity to support the American Family Association through the combined federal campaign by designating a monthly payroll deduction using 12037. You help AFA continue to fight for your family. So when you complete your CFC form, remember, AFA's number is 12037. And thank you for your help.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
This is American Family News. I'm Steve Jordahl. A gunman is dead following a deadly ambush on firefighters in a wooded mountain area in Idaho yesterday. Fox's Todd Pyro has the story.
Police confirming the suspect intentionally started a brush fire in order to lure first responders to a northern Idaho mountain community where the shooting began. 2 firefighters confirmed dead, while another is in stable condition after being released from surgery overnight. The suspected gunman, whose name has yet to be released, was found in a wooded area with a weapon nearby. The suspect was eventually found using cell phone location information after they noticed an active signal in the area. Still unclear how the suspect died, but police do believe he acted alone. Fellow first responders holding a procession for their bodies yesterday, saluting the victims as they passed by.
Police were forced to pick up the suspect's body and flee because the wildfire was still raging. The Senate will be back at 9 a.m. this morning to continue debate and to vote on amendments to President Donald Trump's tax cut and spending bill ahead of a final vote. Speaking on Fox and Friends First, Virginia Republican Congressman John McGuire says the bill will stimulate the American economy.
We don't like some of it, but the biggest thing is it's the biggest tax cut, or it prevents the biggest tax increase on the middle class in history.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the president's tax cut and spending will add over $3 trillion to the national debt. Democrats have criticized the bill for slashing food stamps, Medicaid, and other benefits. President Trump says he's not planning to extend a 90-day pause on tariffs on most nations beyond July 9th, when the negotiating period, he said, would expire. And his administration will notify countries that the trade penalties will take effect unless there are deals with the United States. Letters will start going out, quote, pretty soon before the approaching deadline, he says. And they will say, quote, congratulations, we're allowing you to shop in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff, or 35, or 50, or 10%. SB 33 is now law in Texas. It prevents the state from providing financial assistance for out-of-state abortions. AFN's Bronson Woodruff reports.
The issue has been governments in Texas using taxpayer money to fund women leaving the state to get abortions in other states. This new law aims to stop it. Kimberly Schwartz is the Texas Right to Life Director of Media and Communication.
Yeah, it's sad that this policy was needed in the first place. That means that Christians, taxpayers, are being forced to participate in evil, in abortion, in violence. And so this policy was introduced to make sure that these cities stop doing that.
Texas Values reports Austin City Council approved $400,000 in the city budget for a fund that would provide money for air travel, hotels, and food as part of the effort to persuade women to go out of state for an abortion.
One of the groups that they already wrote a check to, James Dupross, sends teenagers out of state for abortion with or without their parents' knowledge. And so that's the kind of evil that taxpayers are being forced to participate in. And again, that's a tragedy that Austin City Council has already given $100,000 total, but it has set aside $400,000 for abortion travel.
Schwartz said that over the last few years, there have been about 15,000 Texas women leaving the state for abortions. He said some of those trips were paid for by tax dollars. I'm Bronson Woodruff.
President Trump on Sunday pleaded for progress in ceasefire talks in the war in Gaza, calling for a deal that would halt the fighting in the 20-month-long conflict, as Israel and Hamas appear to be inching closer to an agreement. An Israeli official said plans were being made for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to travel to Washington in the coming weeks, a sign there may be movement on a new deal. Meanwhile, Israeli settlers have attacked a military base in the so-called West Bank, setting fires, vandalizing vehicles, and clashing with soldiers. The unrest on Sunday followed recent settler violence and arrests by Israeli security forces. Last week, settlers entered a Palestinian town, setting property ablaze and firing guns. 3 Palestinians were killed after military intervention. Far-right Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir condemned Sunday's attack on soldiers, calling them a red line. For American Family News, I'm Steve Jordan.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for joining us on this Monday, June the 30th, 2025. Again, as always, we appreciate you listening to American Family Radio. Well, joining me in studio is Fred Jackson. Good morning, Brother Fred.
Good to be here. Good to be back.
And Chris Whipper.
Hello.
And that's it, people. There's 3 of us. Just 3 of us. Be back from what? You took a little vacation last week?
Yeah, I was off last week and had a wonderful, blessed time at the Billy Graham Training Center, better known as the Cove, over there in Asheville, North Carolina. And just a wonderful week. We have professors from the Dallas Theological Seminary and spent a whole week studying the book of Romans.
The whole week?
Yeah. 16 different lectures over the course of the week.
16 lectures on one book of the Bible?
Yes. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, this is about the 4th year I've been going. I've spent a week studying the book of Daniel, then another year was the book of Revelation, another year was the book of...
Now, Alex McFarland has a week over there, doesn't he?
Yes, that's coming up in the middle of July. That was being advertised. I'm not. He's looking at a couple of books, and I just forget what that is. But Alex will be there. He's a very popular speaker there.
Mm-hmm.
number of people I talked to said they really look forward to his time there.
Now, when you have 5 days, is that what it was?
Yeah, it opens up usually on a Sunday night with a worship service, and then you have, they have 2 lectures, Monday through Thursday. They have 2 lectures in the morning and evening. So that's Monday through Thursday, and then they do 2 more on Friday, and you're released around noon.
How many people were there?
300.
Okay.
At least 300, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've been there. We went there like 4 or 5 years in a row, I think.
Yeah.
For a lot of our supporters. This would have been 10 years ago or something like that. Now, let me ask you this. Did you go to downtown Asheville?
I did. In fact, the hotel I stayed in was in the downtown area. And I'll tell you, that hurricane damage it was September of last year.
Right. That's why I'm asking you this.
I would say 90% of the businesses, the restaurants, gas stations are still closed. In that, right down by the river.
Yeah.
Those are still, and some of them look like war zone. It really did. I mean, you could just imagine the damage created by the flooding. In fact, Samaritan's Purse, which is part of the Billy Graham organization, they had crews that were staying at the cove while I was there, and they're now in the stage of helping people or rebuilding houses for people. They're doing a great ministry there. But that downtown area, they explain what happened.
Because it's on hills.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, you just go, how does this flood?
Yeah.
I know I can understand how the lowland floods.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But the downtown area is kind of elevated, is it?
Well, that's where the river runs through.
Okay.
And that's what flooded.
Okay.
And I used to go down walking. I'd take my walk in the mornings, and you could see some of these buildings, the mud from the river.
Really?
So we're talking 20, 30 feet above the river level. And I was just imagine what it must have been like with that flooding. They explain what happened a week before Hurricane Helene happened. There was a front that stalled over the area. That dumped about 8 inches of rain. And then several days later, the hurricane hit. That dumped 17 inches of rain in that area. And that's what caused the problems. So, yeah, the evidence is still there of what this did.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so what was give me 1 or 2 notes from your time there in terms of what you learned about the book of Romans in the Bible.
Well, you know, that God's plan will never be stopped. God's plan, he's sovereign. But he works through people who are flawed. Mm-hmm. And when you start...
Why are you looking at me like that? No. I mean, we're all flawed.
Hey, put a ear in here, we're all there. But you talk about Abraham. He was flawed. He was told that he would have a son and that the world would be blessed through Abraham.
Right.
We have been blessed through Abraham. Right. But Abraham had a problem with his whole thing of waiting for the son of Isaac to be born. Mm-hmm. So there's the whole Hagar, Ishmael thing. So God works through imperfect people. I mean, he worked through Isaac. Jacob was a terrible character, but God worked through him, and he was the younger brother of Esau. And then on the story goes. When you think about David, when you think about Solomon, God has a plan, but that plan will not be stopped despite the fact that we're all flawed individuals.
Amen.
And then there's chapters 9, 10, 11 are terrific chapters that God still has a special place for the Jewish people, the chosen people, and that their disobedience through the years will not extinguish God's plan for them. And of course they talk about 1948 shocked the world when Israel became a nation again, and it will be a nation when the Lord returns.
Amen.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad you had a wonderful time. Obviously, you learned a lot, and good to have you home. And we have got a lot to talk about, lots happening in our country and in our world that we need to pay attention to. Chris, What's your first story?
Well,
today?
we need to be praying for firefighters all across the country, but certainly those in Idaho. And I say that because in a story you can find on our website, afn.net, authorities say 2 firefighters were killed and another 2 badly injured after authorities say they were ambushed and shot while responding to a wildfire near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. This happened over the weekend, and Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Morris said firefighters first responded to an early afternoon report of a brush fire at a place called Canfield Mountain. It's described as a popular and scenic hiking and biking area near the outskirts of town. But once the firefighters arrived, someone began shooting at them, and the sheriff says it was very clear that the fire was set to lure the firefighters into an ambush. We also have audio this morning of what's called radio, traffic scanner stuff, where a firefighter says it looks like somebody has set this fire to bring us here in ambushes. Clip 1.
We need law enforcement up here immediately. We've got 2 unresponsive battalion chiefs, gunshot wounds, multiple gunshot wounds. 2 Coeur d'Alene firefighters are down. I'm pinned down behind Battalion 1's rig. It's clear to me that this fire was set intentionally to draw us in.
Now, there's also a quote from the sheriff who says, quote, "These firefighters did not have a chance." A very terrible situation over the weekend.
This was strange. Story when this first popped up and I read about it. So this is in I think
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah, it's a very
beautiful
well-known place
Mm-hmm.
in Idaho, and a lot of people I know have moved from Washington State and Oregon to live in Idaho, and that's a popular destination. But have they called? What happened to the individual? We know the story for why. So just to set this up or review here, somebody set a fire, and this is what firefighters believe, right?
Yes.
They set a fire intentionally to get firefighters to come to the scene. They get to the scene, and then a sniper, it says, takes 2 of these guys out, as in kills them.
Yes.
Right. 2 others were injured, and then it occurs to them that something is wrong here, and they stop the sending the firefighters in. Do we know what happened to the individual who shot them? And
that individual appears to be dead. And individuals have not released his name. I've looked at half a dozen news outlets.
Okay, so we don't know who the person was yet, and we don't know what his motive was.
Correct. All of that seems firm. It was an ambush. Fire was deliberately set to draw these firefighters to this location. This guy opens fire on them, kills 2 of the firefighters. Another one was seriously injured. And then in searching the area, they find the body of this man with a weapon.
Did he shoot himself?
That's the
implication?
That's the indication.
Yes. So, I've never in my life heard of somebody having a vendetta against a firefighter. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't know the story yet. I'm sure it'll come out eventually, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why it was so bizarre to read about this story.
And that's why I'm saying I think we need to pray for not only these firefighters, but all firefighters, because these guys and ladies see a lot of stuff on the job, and it does weigh on them. There are firefighters that unfortunately take their life over things they've dealt with on the job, or maybe had personal issues, and things like this. They weigh on you, so we do need to pray for these.
Is there a press conference scheduled for today?
I believe so.
They've had a couple already, just trying to explain to folks. I'm sure by now some of these officials know who this guy is, and I think by the end of the day we'll know a whole lot more.